Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Legacy Code, discovering your deep purpose and transform your success into the fulfilling legacy that you're meant to create. I'm your host, Andrew Colombini, and today we have a very special guest, Grace Gravestock. Grace, how are you doing today?
Great. Thank you so much, Andrew. I love your work and I'm super excited to be having this conversation today.
Yes, me too. I'm super excited. Human design is one of my favorite systems. I use it with my clients every day. And today's topic, everyone, is how do we discover our legacy through human design? This would be kind of like in the beginning stages of whether you're deciding what else is out there for me, or you've built massive success but don't know where to go. We're going to dive into how using a system like human design can reveal certain things about yourself, hidden parts in your chart that can hint at career paths or places where you will feel the most aligned, where you will be able to build that legacy for yourself. So, before we get into that, I would love to introduce Grace. She's a human design mentor, change advisor, personally carries the codes of the right angle cross of the sleeping phoenix, which I'm sure we'll go over that. I hope that we do go over those themes. But it's the Harbinger. She's on a mission to positively impact 5 billion people by 2025 through the Know Yourself revolution. 20 plus years of blue chip corporation experience as a change catalyst and lifetime as a personal transformation maverick. She will share what you need to know to not only survive, but thrive through the changes ahead. So, Grace, really excited to have you here. Would love to know quickly, pretty short though, how did you get into human design? What interested you? What's kind of your story into getting into human design?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Andrew. It's a long story, but I'm going to give you the really short version. About 8 years ago, the now ex-husband put a knife to my neck, and I had to leave in a hurry. It was such a surprise. I was really caught off guard. I moved in with friends. I went through a lot of big changes in a short period of time, downsizing, layoff, health crisis, and I really wanted to check out. My friends, my new housemates pushed me to get a human design reading, and it was when I got the human design reading that everything changed. After listening to it on the third time it was a recording, I was so determined to get all the value out of it because I had spent so much money on it that I listened to it 3 times, and then I heard this voice in my head, and it said, "You are not broken. You are perfect the way you are. You are perfectly designed to be and do exactly what you came here to be and do."
Mm-hmm.
And that changed everything. And it just really changed the trajectory of my whole life, because when I internalized that, I realized that I get to look at life in a whole different way, and all the things that I thought were true were not. And I was really spinning. So I dove deep, and I had to understand this. It really resonated as truth with me, and I just wanted to share it with everybody because it was so impactful to me.
Yeah, fantastic. And it's a powerful system. Really happy that you're teaching it. And so, human design is a massive system. If you guys don't know what it is, there's a lot of components to it. My question for you is, let's say someone is, we'll do like a little beginner, and then we can do people who are like more advanced where they look. But if people are new to human design, maybe you've heard of it, did a little bit with it, how can human design help us discover and live our legacy?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would say that it helps us by helping us know who we are and what we're here to be and do. So whereas a lot of people teach human design, I mean, I do share it with a lot of people, and so to some people might call me a teacher, but I'm not really teaching human design. My unique perspective on it is really to help people understand what they're uniquely configured to be and do as it relates to their energy blueprint. So the way I look at it is, you have an address in the universe, and that is your date of birth, time of birth, and city of birth. And based on that address in the universe, everything lines up. So it's a lot like your GPS. When you punch in a new address on your phone, where you are to where you're going, there's a straight line, and you're going to probably choose the most direct route. And so to answer your question, Andrew, when we get in alignment with our blueprint, things can finally flow, and
Mhm.
we can finally be the fullest expression of what we came here to be, and do the things that we are most uniquely designed to do that absolutely no one else can do but us. And so in that way, we leave a legacy just by being ourselves.
So what you're saying is with human design, but really just us, it's a way of reading who we are, that we have this inherent gifts and there's this secret hidden um, um, well, you could look at us and be able to determine what's a good legacy and where to go. Is that what you're saying human design can do?
Yeah, absolutely. And and I would say it this way: when you say, a good way to go, human design, as far as I'm concerned, there's really no good or bad, right or wrong. It's sort of different. So it's kind of like, this was a breakthrough for me when I realized, when I took on this perspective of life, there's not one right answer, and there's not necessarily a good way and a bad way. It's more like a different way. And so when I adopted that way of looking at things, it really opened up a lot of possibility for me, because then I wasn't shut down by self-judgment of and fear of making the wrong decision or making the one right decision. I was
Mhm.
able to see that there is no right or wrong decision. It's going to be a different outcome depending on the choice that I make. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Okay. Because there's no right or wrong, but maybe there's aligned and not aligned decisions, would you say?
Yes, yeah. That's that's
Okay.
that's a great way to look at it. Yeah, because
Okay.
because with the blueprints that we have, there are things that are going to work better, and even better. It's going to be smoother maybe, but there's a lot of lessons in what we might think of as the hard way. And and it's just a different path. It's kind of like if we're both planning to meet up at that mountain over there. We're going to probably take different paths, and we'll meet up there, and we'll have a different way to get there. So we'll get there in the end, but it'll just be a different journey.
Got it. So then, how do we find our human, or how do we define our legacy in the human design chart? Where would we look, and what certain things can hint at best career and really what to do in our current situation?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. So the way I look at it is looking at what we're configured to be and do. So when you look up your human design, and you look at my system, there's one of 5 types you're going to be, and that's a starting point. And so what that basically says is how you're meant to interact with the world, and it really has to do with your energy field, and how you're meant to literally take in and receive information and interact with others. And so if we're looking for guidance on what legacy we're meant to leave, or what legacy we can leave, where we can start is in interfacing with the world in the way that's aligned with our configuration. And that is going to make it it's going to feel a certain way. And so depending on the type that you are, one of the 5 types, for instance, for most of us, it's going to be either satisfying or
Mhm.
frustrating. And so then with that as a guidepost, that's where we get into alignment or not. So if it feels satisfying for 70% of us, that means that we're in alignment. Whereas if it feels frustrating, it doesn't mean life is frustrating. I mean, life can feel frustrating in that moment, but it doesn't mean that life is meant to be frustrating. It means that we're not on the path. Kind of
Right.
like when you hit the bumps on the side, blah, 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 blah. You can drive there, but you're not really meant to drive there, right? You're meant to be on the road where it's smooth. And so those bumps are really like frustration in our lives. They're meant to just say, hey, get back on the road.
Yeah. Which you're speaking to the generators and manifesting generators out there. That is your authority or your strategy, right? So, and that's a good indication, right? So, what I'm hearing you say is we need to look at our type, and then we need to look at our self, not self theme. That'll kind of help us determine if we're on trajectory with satisfaction or off of dissatisfaction. It depends on your type. Anything else in our charts, or what else would you say is going to help us figure out? because I've worked with many clients where they're like really they have a successful hair salon business and it's really working, but they just don't want to show up and be a part of it anymore. Right.
Yeah.
So how could someone like that use their human design, right? Figuring out their type, they realize they're dissatisfied. Maybe they're a generator dissatisfied. What
Mhm.
else could a person do to help them get clarity?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I teach a process that here's how I look at it. And this can work for any type. It's just that you're going to look for a different thing when you do it. So it's really a two-step process. And so the first step is to set a clear intention. So for instance, if I'm the hairdresser, I might say, I am so happy and grateful that I have work that is satisfying for me. I like working with people. I don't want to be stuck in a salon anymore, for instance. So I'm so happy and grateful that, and then I would suggest that you focus on the things that you want more of. So I'm so happy and grateful that I like working with people. I'm so happy and grateful that I get to, for instance, travel or whatever it is, like pick three things. One of the stories that I like to share about this process is how it worked for me when I first tried it. I knew that there were four things that I wanted, and I was really exploring how much travel do I want to do in my career. And so I simply wrote these four things. I said, I'm so happy and grateful that I get to work with leaders that I can respect and learn from. So happy and grateful that I work with people who I like and they like me. So happy and grateful that I get to use my skill set in communications and change management. And the fourth thing was I get paid to travel. And here's
Mm,
where it got really interesting. The part that I wasn't sure about is how much travel do I want? So the very first day I wrote it down and it was like 50% travel. And I was like, oh, it doesn't quite feel right. And I kind of did some research online. Well, gosh, that's a lot of time I'm going to be on a plane. Maybe it's not 30%. So, sorry. So it was 50% and I left it there. The next day I got a call from a recruiter who read me a job description. She said, I think you're a really good fit, but here's the thing, it's 50% travel. And I was like, it feels like too much. So I went back and I was like, I think it's maybe it's more like 30%. So, I wrote the same thing down except 30% that day. And it's a gratitude practice that I teach, but it's very simple. It's just focusing on what you want and then using your strategy. In this case, for most people, it's waiting for something to respond to. And so this
mhm,
story illustrates how every day when I got clearer and clearer on how much travel I wanted, I would get something different to respond to. And so the second day when I did it, I'm like 30%. Okay, that's a little better. I got a different recruiter that called me up out of the blue and said, I found you on LinkedIn. I think you'd be a good fit for this.
mhm,
But here's the thing, it's 30% travel. And finally this happened so over several days. Finally, I got to 20%, like 25%. I got the same thing, a different recruiter. And then finally, I was like, that's still too much. I really just want one short trip a week. So finally,
mhm,
when I got to that, I felt clear. And this is the key thing. So for all of us, we benefit when we listen to our bodies and we listen to what the body is saying. In this case, I felt like it just felt like clarity, like it felt like peace. It didn't feel like congested and like, I'm not sure. And as soon as I got to that, boom, the job that it ended up being my dream job at that time. And it's in the interview process started that day when I got that clarity. Like the person finally called me. I had applied 2 months before, but they never reached out to me. And I
mhm,
couldn't figure out why. But what I realized later is it was about alignment. I was finally clear about what I wanted, and that lined up with what was available. And boom, so to answer your question, how do people get clarity? I would recommend you start with keeping a gratitude journal of writing down the things that you want. And every day when you commit to doing it, and I teach a 10-minute gratitude practice, so it's just like a commitment of set a timer for 10 minutes. And as you commit to writing that down again every single day, you're forced to reconsider, is this what I really want? And after you commit to it so many times, you're like, yeah, that is what I want. And you'll start to
Mm,
see things that show up in your physical field that you can see, smell, taste, touch, or hear. And those, for 70% of us, are what I call something to respond to. And
mhm.
that is what is going to ultimately lead us to the fulfillment of the intention that we set.
Beautiful. I love that technique. Something comes up and it has a lot to do with the fact of social conditioning and wanting something that maybe isn't what I want, or maybe it's not even something good for me ultimately. How could human design help dissolve any impurities that are from social constructs of what I desire? Is there anywhere in the chart where I can see, like, oh, you would be best working with people and in front of an audience, or oh, you're best working alone and on art projects? Does anything like that exist in human design?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked. So I actually have a report that's called your career roadmap, and it's a lot of words to make human design simple for anyone. So there's no jargon in it, and it literally does correlate these different aspects that are in your chart to what you're meant to be and do, like as it relates to work. Because my mission is to well, it's for the Know Yourself revolution, is to create a tipping point for humanity, which requires people to listen to their own internal guidance system, to know, love, and trust themselves. So I have created reports that help people find work that's aligned for them. So exactly what you said, Andrew, it's a 20, in this case, one of the offerings is a 20-page report, which literally tells you, like if you're meant to, if you're going to do really well, it basically tells you what your unique genius is as it relates to your your capabilities as a leader, and then ideal job characteristics and other factors that most people would think of in terms of work, like do I work best alone or with another person in an office. There's absolutely things in your chart that are indicators for that, which we could get into the detail, but yes, the answer is yes. All of that is in your chart. And it's not right or wrong, good or bad, but it's like, this is your unique genius and where you're going to most shine. Now, does that
Mhm.
mean that you're not going to be happy if you do something a little bit outside of that? I mean, there's so many factors to go into it. We're not designed to necessarily just do one thing. We're meant to be the fullest expression of ourselves that we possibly can be. And that has a lot of facets, just like a diamond. It's not just one thing. Does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
Absolutely. Yeah. And of course it's a big system, you guys. So it's is why Grace is on here. You'll see her links down below. We'll get to that in a second, but she's a resource here for you guys. I want to know what does leaving a legacy mean to you?
Yeah, leaving a legacy to me means that when I'm gone, the world is a different place in a measurable way. So for me, what I see in front of me is this big vision to create a tipping point for humanity, and that's huge. 5 billion people by 2025. I mean, that's coming up. So I don't imagine doing that on my own. What I feel like is the old ways is where we're like a single shingle and I'm going to just, be a star and do it all myself. No, that time has passed. The way I see it is the future is collaboration. So I anticipate creating and I am creating a tipping point for humanity through frequency, alignment, and collaboration. And so what that brings up, Andrew, as far as legacy, is this idea that we make an impact through the frequency that we broadcast. We are not just the 3D physical beings that maybe we've grown up thinking we are. We actually are energetic beings having a physical experience. And so the impact that we're going to make, the legacy we're going to leave behind, isn't just physical, while it might end up being, a castle or a monument or something. Perhaps more importantly or more significantly, is the impact that we've made in other people's lives. And I feel like that's the future, is through collaboration, frequency, and alignment. We're going to be rewarded increasingly as we go forward in the ways that we bring well-being to the planet, as opposed to being focused on, just self benefit. Like, we get to benefit other people going forward, and we will be increasingly compensated for that. Like, the more people we help, the more we will be compensated. And that's how I see legacy in the future, and now, even now. But we're moving. We're definitely shifting into new ways of living, working, and being. And we always have. I mean, to some extent, it's an evolution that we're going through. But we are in a very unique time right now that is like the earth is shifting underneath us. And I was just talking about this earlier with someone that in the old way, like we might have been walking on a solid, what felt like a solid ground. And now what I believe we're going to be walking on more and more, it feels more like quicksand or moving ground underneath us. And so what that requires is different ways of thinking and different ways of being that will end up with a different kind of legacy, because it will be measured in impact rather than necessarily just tangible things that we might have measured with, let's say 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I like that. And leaving a legacy will be different for everybody. And you guys listening right now, raising children as best as you can is a legacy. So there's no like, I got to change the world, although that is part of people's legacy as well. It's something that you get to discover. So I would love to hear, and we've basically been talking on this, but just kind of as a recap, why should people follow human design, and how can human design help them find a legacy?
Yeah, I mean, the reason to do it is if it resonates with you, there's so many ways. And as you've aptly demonstrated, Andrew, with all the work that you've done, there's so many different ways to look at who you are. And there's a right way for you if you're listening. And if human design resonates with you and you want to try it out, I mean, it's free, it doesn't cost, but it resonates with a lot of people. And then there's some people that it doesn't. So if the question is, why should somebody look at human design? I would say the answer is, if it resonates with you, if it feels good in your body and you're intrigued by it, if it piques your interest, then that is your body giving you an indication that this is correct for you. And so why would you use it as a tool to create your legacy? Because you're looking for a way to fulfill the purpose that you came here for, and you want a shortcut to know what that is. Because what human design does, it offers a roadmap. So all the things, for instance, if the way I like to describe it is, you've got 9 centers and you've got all this color, and you're either broadcasting or you're receiving. It's kind of like we're all little Wi-Fi signals walking around, or big Wi-Fi signals. And so the information that we're either broadcasting or receiving at any given time is our contribution to the world. And so why would we want to use that to create a legacy? Because that's what we're uniquely hardwired to do. And so whether we look at human design or not, we will probably find naturally that we gravitate towards the ways of being that most resonate with what we're here to do. And if human design, and I see human design as a shortcut for people who are interested in checking it out.
Fabulous. I like that. And I would love to even add that why not?
Yeah,
Because
there's no downside.
what I've found is you guys know already what works and doesn't work, but there's so much unconscious programming from the day we're born to how a society should operate, to these careers pay this amount because this is what society values and what we look like. Like, for example, in the 1700s or earlier, if you were white, plump, and immobile, you were looked upon because that represented being rich and having food and shelter. If you were tan, strong, and fit, you were a worker. You probably didn't have money. And so people valued that pale skin so much, they actually, I was reading a story in a textbook, but when I was still in school, that they would dye their skin with like harsh chemicals to look white. Why I'm saying that is because society isn't a good reference point of what's good, bad, right, or wrong, or what works. It just is what it is. We're still figuring out that one. Human design offers an opportunity for you to really understand how you're naturally wired and what you might actually like if you give it a chance. Is there solid proof? I don't know. I don't think it should matter. I, I think it really matters is trying it out. And I'm a skeptic, but I always want to believe in magic. And human design is magical, and it brings a lot of amazing results. My clients get amazing results, and Grace is here for you guys to reach out to. We this interview, it's impossible to get in all the little details, right? You guys can go right now, look at your type, look at your authority, look at your profile. It's going to give you an idea. You can research that in ChatGPT or Google. But honestly, you'll get a really good read if you reach out to Grace here, for example. You offer one-on-one readings?
I do,
You
yeah.
do?
I
Okay.
offer one-on-one and yeah, group coaching and yeah, a bunch of
Fast.
things.
Perfect. So reach out to her, get that read, learn a little bit more about yourself, learn about your situation that you're in, whether you're trying to figure out that next step of leaving a legacy, or you know that you're meant for something bigger than what's going on. This is going to be a major shift for you. Now I know you have a free gift, but before we get to the gift, is there anything else you'd like to add to the interview before we close out?
Yeah, I want to say that everyone has certain codes. So, I know you talk sometimes about codes, Andrew, and we all carry all of these are codes in your human design. You see all these numbers, it's very mathematical. And there are four codes that are particularly important. And so when you introduced me, Andrew, you mentioned Cross of Sleeping Phoenix. And what that references is four what I call grand purpose codes. And they make up 70% of what you're here to be and do. And so when you look at your codes, that is if you're looking for the experiment, like Andrew said, and you're curious and you're wondering if that resonates, like you look at that and you're like, oh my gosh, that is the theme of my life. Like, wow. So you start to realize that you're here for a purpose, you're here for a reason, and that when you live in alignment with your configuration, your unique genius, that's when life gets to be really fun. It gets to be exciting, it gets to be joyful again, and it's not a slog anymore. It's not like, oh, I have to work. No, it's I get to work, and what kind of work am I going to do? The stuff that lights me up. And this helps you identify exactly what that is.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up too, because there's there's overarching themes in our charts. Whether it's human design, astrology, biotypes, all these systems reveal overarching themes. And you can be a generator, you can have a 4-6 profile, you can be emotional or just sacral authority, but be completely different, right? And you can even have the same centers defined and all this stuff, but still be a little bit different because you could be a right angle or a left angle, and there could be all these. There's a lot of things to this, you guys. That's why don't try and go and figure it out yourself. There's a lot to it unless you're crazy like me and Grace and really dig into the stuff and love it. Go for it, please. If you're inspired to do that, go for it. But but there's simple ways to get to point B. You have a gift. We'd love to know what it is, and really excited to hear what it's all about.
Yeah, so the free gift is the four most important things that you want to know about your purpose and your legacy. So what does it mean to leave a legacy? It means being in alignment with your configuration, what you're uniquely here to be and do. And this free report is personalized to you, your unique address in the universe, and it's going to tell you those four most important things that I think you will want to know about your purpose. And as you can tell from Andrew and I chatting, I mean, you can go down the rabbit hole and there's a million things you can study and look at. But I'm telling you, after studying it for 8 years, there's there's just a handful of things that are really, really the most important things. And so I have cut out the extra work for you to try to figure out what those things are. And I've picked the most important things and put them in this free report so that you can get it and you can see how it resonates with you. We call it the experiment, like Andrew said, so that you can try it out and see for yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. You guys heard it. Down below, you're going to see a button. It's going to say claim your free gift. Go ahead and click that. You're going to get access. You're going to finally figure out those hidden secrets in your chart. I'm sure a lot of things you kind of had a hunch about, but weren't sure that'll finally be confirmed, which, by the way, a lot of what human design is you confirming like, oh, this is me, because we have such a strong intuition, everyone, that we have an idea, but never really got permission to or were certain of. And that's what this is going to help you do. Grace, thank you so much for joining us here today. I had an amazing time, and I know everyone else here had an amazing time too.
Thanks so much, Andrew. I love what you're doing for the world by sharing all this great information to help people know, love, and trust themselves. You are part of the Know Yourself revolution, and you are here to lead by example. So this is another tool that you can use to leave your legacy and to find the joy in the life that you have.
Yes. Thank you so much. And everybody, I know that you guys had some mind blowing things. Again, reach out to Grace. She's going to help you along your journey as well as other experts. There will be some other personality typing, life path typing people on here. My recommendation is just get them all, put them all in your basket, learn more about yourself as much as you possibly can. And then the path of how to leave that legacy or what to do from your current situation to where you want to go is going to be super crystal clear. So I'm Andrew Colombini. Thanks for joining me and Grace on this episode here, and I'll see you guys on the next one.